Hello everyone and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you guys for joining me. This is going to be your astro weather for the week of January 4th through the 11th, 2026. I'm so excited to be back. Happy New Year's to those of you guys who are celebrating the first week of January 2026. This is going to be your astro weather overview for the week ahead, how to navigate. And obviously major headlines, guys. We have a very powerful week. I think probably one of the biggest weeks in 2026. We are going to see a very rare double Cazimi taking place in the sign of Capricorn. This is all about mature birth and rebirth when it comes to love, drive, and obviously ambition. So I'm excited to be back. I hope you guys are doing well. I hope you guys got a chance to see my New Year's Day 2026 presentation. It is like 5 hours long. I take you guys all through the astrology of 2026. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. Although you might have to watch it in a few segments, but that's okay. A few quick love notes before we get going. So first of all, if you guys are new here, welcome. My name's Candice. I'm a Western astrologer. I like to apply the Sabian symbols as well as tarot to make sense to what is going on in the cosmos. If you like my content and you want to see more of it, please subscribe to the channel. Click that bell button below so that way you guys are subscribed and you get alerts from my videos. I'm always here Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays using tarot and astrology to make sense of what's going on in the cosmos. Please also give me a thumbs up. Sharing is caring as well. So like and share this video with other astro friends. And drop me a comment in the comments below. Let me know how you guys are feeling with this week, where Capricorn is in your chart, what this power up means for you. And I do read all of the comments. I don't always get a chance to get back to them, but thank you guys for your interaction and engagement. It does help the channel grow. Now this Friday evening at 6 o'clock p.m. Central Time, that's 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, you're gonna see me here live doing tarot readings. So if you guys wanna hang out, get your cards read, it's always a good time on Friday nights, so please join me. All right, this week, I mean, honestly, this is one of the biggest weeks, or at least one of the big weeks in 2026. And the reason being is that this week is going to pack a massive punch. It's very serious. There's a lot of ambition in the air. We're also focusing on really maturing as this very powerful Capricorn stellium is building in the skies. Now, I do cover this in my January horoscope, so if you haven't seen it, check it out. But I will also take you through the 12 signs at the end of this video. We're going to talk about really what this means, having two back-to-back Cazimis involving both the Sun and Mars, and then one with Venus and the Sun. And these are going to be Cazimis that are taking place in Capricorn. So we are feeling disciplined. There is this major focus on long-term goals, as well as relationships, maybe some self-worth peppered in there. But it's all about taking action and welcoming renewal. Now, I see this as kind of like a cosmic reset in the Capricorn area of your chart. So pull your charts out, whether you guys have it on your computer, you got it on a paper or an app. Take a look at Capricorn because this is where the action is really going to be this week. I do think that it really helps us feel more grounded. There is a sense of being a little bit more strategic. Obviously, we know that Capricorn is Saturn ruled. Now, we will see some emotional tensions rise this week, and this is going to be because we're going to see oppositions to Jupiter retrograde in Cancer. So we're feeling the tug of war between who I am out in the world and inside, how do I really feel? Maybe we'll feel some tension between home and family. Maybe we're reevaluating or we're just kind of overextending ourselves. But I think the vibe is very productive, and I really want to highlight that. Really what we focus on building this week likely can last. The key here is about committing maturely to stuff, also integrating lessons that are kind of tied to these cycles that have been going on for the last 4 years. So this is echoing themes going all the way back to the end of 2021, the beginning of 2022, when we last saw Venus retrograde in Capricorn. So let's dive deep. Let's talk about what this means, because honestly, if you guys saw the horoscopes, I was like, gave you this laundry list of transits, and I was like, if I'm overwhelmed, you're overwhelmed. So it's good to have another video to kind of really break it down and talk about why this astrology is so unusual. Not only the stellium in Capricorn and the two Cazimis, but the oppositions to Jupiter. So I want to talk about why this is a cosmic reset. Obviously, we're just days away. So if you guys are watching this on Sunday on the 4th, if you're part of my Sunday crew, happy Sunday to the Sunday crew. Thanks for bringing me with you. But we're days away from this very potent and rare astrological event as we kind of see this back-to-back Venus and Mars, Cazimi and Capricorn. So it's really fusing, I think, this ultra tight Venus-Mars conjunction with all of this Capricorn energy. And a Capricorn stellium, any stellium is going to be made up of at least 3 or more planets. So it's just a lot of focus that's going to be fused in one sign, in one area of your chart. Thankfully, I think it's going to give us all the discipline we need. It is Saturn ruled, and Saturn is in a water sign, so it does deal with our emotions. It's about wrapping things up. It's the past, letting go. And also, we're going to see that there is a reassessment of our values, of our self-worth this week. There's also going to be a lot more energy, a lot more ambition, and it's perfect for setting the tone for 2026, especially when we see some of these changes kind of go on globally because Saturn is in a global sign, Pisces. Now, as for who this is going to be affecting, honestly, everybody's going to feel it. But if you happen to be a Mars or Venus ruled chart or a Capricorn rising, you guys are going to be experiencing this the most. Aries, obviously, you're ruled by Mars. Scorpio, you're ruled by Mars. You guys are going to feel the Mars Cazimi and the conjunctions, as well as my Taurus and my Libra risings, because you guys are ruled by Venus. And then also Leo risings, because you guys are ruled by the sun, and Capricorn rising, sun and moon placements. You guys will be feeling this as well. Now, if you have any personal planets between 15 and 20 degrees of the cardinal, so I'm talking to Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, you guys are going to be feeling either the conjunction, the opposition, or the square. And it's going to get quite lit up, especially as we start to see some of the oppositions, really echoing, I think, some of the themes that came from the most recent full moon that we had in Cancer yesterday. So I want you guys to take a look around, look at what's been kind of happening with that full moon in Cancer, where we've been feeling a little overextended, because this is setting the stage for the rest of the month. Now, the exact timeline I'm sure you guys are looking for, and you can always find the dates for these transits along with the astro weather dates for the week down below. You guys can find that in the description. But there's going to be several days that we're going to see Venus, the sun, and Mars all moving in close proximity to each other, making the Cazimis and also making the Mars and Venus conjunction. So really it's going to be peppered all throughout the week. There's no one specific day that's going to be more prominent, I think, than the other. I will give you guys the specific dates when we're going to see each transit, but in a nutshell, from January 6th through the 11th, 2026, that's when we are feeling this massive energy. Now, it all kicks off on January 6th when we see a new Venus star point that is being born. This is the Venus Cazimi, so Venus will be pulling ahead of the sun, making a superior kind of conjunction, and this will be happening at 16 degrees of Capricorn. So if you have anything 15 through about 20 degrees of Capricorn, sun, moon, rising, personal planet, you're feeling this the most. Same thing for my cardinal degrees within those degrees as well. Now, when we have this superior conjunction, it basically means that this is going to be planting a new seed. Cazimis represent something dying and coming back to life. So it's renewal. It's about regeneration. This is about something new that's taking place out in the world. Now, we will see on the 7th and the 8th, Venus will be in conjunction to Mars in Capricorn. We've got the star-crossed lovers side by side, passionate, driven, mature, and it has an agenda. It has a plan, some long-term goal in relationships, values, and money, and action is taking place. Now, this will be happening at 18 degrees of Capricorn. Then on the 9th of January, we're going to see a Mars Cazimi. This will happen at 19 degrees of Capricorn, and this is where Mars makes the superior conjunction to the sun, pulls ahead of the sun, and we're going to see a huge focus on fusing the energy of ego, drive, leadership, vitality, and action, courage, and passion, and Mars is exalted. Wow, we're going to see some big things going on with government, big things going on with leadership, major goals coming online. And this is where we really start to get into the groove, I think, of setting the stage for our New Year's resolutions. Now, obviously, these stellium players, Sun, Venus, Mars, all in this tight conjunction, Mercury is nearby as well, so it is quite the stellium for planets that are hanging out in Capricorn, but Mercury is not really a part of the conjunctions quite yet. Actually, the Cazimi will come later on in Aquarius, later kind of going into the end of January, early February. But they are all about this dominant energy that's connected to maturity. It's about commitment, long-term building, and accountability. Accountability is going to be, I think, the key word of 2026, both because of the year kind of starting off with this heavy Capricorn vibe, but also because of the brewing Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. Now, to understand what the Cazimi means, this basically means that, especially when we look at it from the perspective of the sun, when we come into the Cazimi conjunction, really this is about empowerment. This is about purification. Yes, it burns up and it burns really bright, but it then is reborn. Now with the Venus Cazimi, this means that there's going to be a new cycle that is emerging. And this is going to be for love, obviously relationships, money, beauty, values, all of Venus things. And Capricorn makes it more serious, it's more strategic, but it also makes it enduring. Now the Mars Cazimi is about a rebirth when it comes to our drive. This is about courage. It's also connected to sexuality, passion, taking initiative. And Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So this is quite the conjunction because it means that not only are we disciplined, but we are an unstoppable force in this area of our chart. So with this stellium of 3 or more planets, there is this laser focus on Capricorn's archetype. Now, this actually is an interesting kind of conjunction, especially with the Venus Cazimi that's kind of taking place, because to understand the Venus star point, we actually have to kind of go back and we have to talk a little bit about the past. So when we see the Venus Cazimi taking place, obviously, you know, kind of the 6th on, this is the superior conjunction. So it basically means that Venus is direct, she is not retrograde, she is now really being able to be reborn, and it's going to be very visible. This is where we're going to see kind of like the culmination that's been taking place in the process of the most recent Venus cycle. So to really understand this, we have to kind of break down the 2 different kind of conjunctions that we see between the Sun and Venus. We have the inferior conjunction and we have the superior conjunction. This one's the superior conjunction. So the inferior conjunction is when we see a new Venus that's kind of being born, and sometimes we're working out the kinks when it comes to love, money, and relationships. This is about seeding intentions, and it's also about intense personal introspective, because we saw that during the Venus retrograde actually in 2022. So that particular Venus retrograde is more kind of this underworld Venus. It's invisible because Venus was retrograde, and the themes of that retrograde deal with death. It's also about rebirth. There is this reassessment of our desires, major deep review, and letting go of old patterns. Now, when we see the superior conjunction where Venus is on the side of the sun where she's conjunct, like she will be in early January, this is the full Venus. So it's kind of like a full moon. Venus is now going to be in her peak illumination. So there is this fruition, there is this outward kind of expression of Venus in this cycle. And Venus is going to be at her maximum brightness potential as the evening star post-conjunction. So what does this mean, right? It brings clarity, it's bringing integration, we're gonna see external manifestations. And I see this as the harvest season in the Capricorn area of our chart. More confident in her expression, especially in her values. And this is all about mature commitments shining very brightly. Now, the Venus cycle lasts about 584 days or 19 months, depending on how you look at each cycle. And it forms this beautiful pentagram in the sky. So if you guys haven't seen stuff on the Venus star point, you should check it out, because there's always new star points that are going to be kind of emerging, throughout the cycle. We'll see another one that's going to be taking place down the road this fall, actually, at 0 degrees of Scorpio. But this pattern repeats throughout the years, and every 8 years we see similar retrogrades or star points that kind of emerge. And it always begins with an inferior conjunction. Okay, that's the new seed that we saw in 2021 into 2022. Then it builds into a superior conjunction, and then it's in full bloom. So we'll be seeing it wind down as we get into the fall. But I want to remind you guys of the Venus retrograde in 2021 and 2022 that we had in Capricorn. So you guys have to put on your thinking caps. You have to think about what was going on then. But in that period, we saw the Venus retrograde in Capricorn, and it was retrograde conjunct the sun. So some of the things that are now coming to full bloom, fruition, major changes, transformations, are actually connected to things that got reset 4 years ago. So think back to what was happening in late December, even early January, specifically like the 8th, 9th, and 10th of January 2022. We saw a inferior conjunction that happened at 18 degrees of Capricorn. So there was something going on end of 2021, 2022 that's now coming to fruition. It can mean that this is connected to economic cycles, banking cycles, leadership, changes when it comes to government and how they're managing money and resources and funds. And when we think about that 2021, 2022 retrograde, maybe it's just me, you know, I have Venus in Capricorn in my chart. So when I went through that Venus Capricorn retrograde, it was a lot. There was a lot of changes. There was definitely a lot of changes that were going on out in the world economically. But I remember the major shifts in relationships, the major changes going on with my home, the changes that were going on with finances. And also there was like a pretty prominent death that happened in my family. So I think back to that and I'm like, wow, with Venus having been stationed retrograde, she was also very close to Pluto. This really forced major deep excavations of power dynamics. And it was also in relationships. Maybe for some of you guys, it was tied to money or self-worth. Maybe it was tied to your career or achievement and status. And likely what we saw with the inferior conjunction is that there was fears that were kind of coming up around security, maybe commitment. And many people during that period experienced a lot of pressure in relationships. We saw a lot of breakups, we saw divorces, there was financial reckonings, obviously post-COVID kind of fallout. And there was profound, I think, reassessments when it comes to our long-term goals. Many people's jobs changed, many people's lives changed, and this is all kind of classic for that inferior conjunction, plus Pluto was there as well. Now, 4 years later, we're in January of 2026. So this Cazimi from about 16 to 19 degrees of Capricorn is now the fruition and the integration point of what you initiated and what you started back then. So yes, we had some upheavals in 2021 into 2022, but now we're going to start to see the silver lining, what we have actually built towards. If you have managed to really structure the Capricorn area of your chart, now you're going to start to see the fruits of your labor, your relationships, your changes, your hard work, determination start to come into bloom. Now, I would say maybe reflect on what relationships or value shifts have happened since then. What ended, what changed. Now they're going to be reaching this full maturity, and I think it's ready for more committed type of expression, more public visibility, obviously with Capricorn, and obviously lasting structure. Some of us experienced a lot of self-worth wounds during that time, and so if we have confronted them during the retrograde, now with this superior conjunction, the phase really kind of empowers us. It makes us feel more confident. There is this outward kind of ownership that starts to emerge. Likely we'll find that ambitions that have been realigned in the Capricorn area of our chart needed a little bit more discipline, right? And we applied that discipline, especially as we've seen Saturn go through Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces, and we're going to expect to see some major illumination, perhaps some rewards or a clear direction forward when it comes to building them in a much more sustainable, long-term way. Now, Mars is going to be joining in a Cazimi as well, which makes this very unusual. And this culmination adds a lot of passion. There's a lot of drive. I think it's really turning that kind of introspective 2021, 2022 period into bold strategy. This is about being strategic as we take actions in 2026. So in essence, the 2021, 2022 inferior conjunction was kind of like the dark night of the soul in the Capricorn area of our charts. Now, as we go into 2026, it's the reset. It is the superior. Think of this as the dawn. So now we're going to start to see what is emerging. Likely, many of us are going to feel more enlightened, more empowered, ready to really kind of shine in that area of our chart and really illuminate that Venus, Mars, Capricorn energy and build together stronger. This is so rare to see back-to-back conjunctions like this. The inferior and the superior in the same sign is a little unusual. It will be also amplifying the themes of, Capricorn energy. So in our own life, it's going to be about responsibility in love, ambition in our values, building security that endures. I think it's perfect timing as we are kind of beginning 2026 and we're getting ready to see the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's going to be emerging next month. Now, historically, this is interesting because yes, we see Venus Cazimis roughly every 9 to 18 months. We'll see 2 of them. That's going to happen this year. But in my opinion, this is the one that's going to be a lot more beneficial. Mars Cazimis take place about every 2 years. So to see this back to back in the same sign within 1 to 2 degrees of each other, and also, you know, the sun midpoint being kind of there, is extremely rare, especially in modern history. Now, Capricorn's all about history. I'm a history buff. I really love tying kind of cycles and what's happened in the past to better understand and predict what's coming in the future. That's really the job, I think, of astrologers. And I looked back on some of the cycles that we have seen in Capricorn, and what it brought me back to was actually January of 1994. So around 13 to 15 degrees back then, we saw a Venus Cazimi in mid-January of 94. And it was this tight cluster of the Sun, Venus, and Mars together around similar degrees. Now, back then we saw NAFTA launched around January 1st, which was all about economic restructuring. This was also kind of post-Cold War fallout, and there was like this global ambition surge that happened. We saw the rising of corporate power. We also saw early internet boom kind of happen, and the groundwork for the internet start to be kind of laid. So the themes back then were more pragmatically taking care of economic issues, focusing on unions in business, and accountability when it comes to trade and power. So I think we might see some similarities kind of coming up here. I went a little bit further back. I looked at January of 1962. Now this happened around 8 degrees of Capricorn, where we saw a Venus-Mars conjunction. And on January 4th, the sun joined a few days later. Now this highlighted Cold War tensions, okay? So it's interesting, this is about the Cold War. The one in the 90s was about post-Cold War. Capricorn is cold, right? Mars is war. Venus is kind of like the economic and like relational kind of dynamics. And this is when the Soviet Union power struggles started to really happen. We also saw that there was a space race that was going on, lots of ambition there. So the themes were about discipline. It was also about escalation, being strategic when it comes to leadership, and obviously leaders getting tested. One more, we've got 1930. So most of us were not alive, obviously. Most all of us, I would assume, unless you're one of my older viewers. But in the Great Depression, we saw in the beginning of 1930, there was a conjunction that happened around 3 degrees of Capricorn. This was amongst the time that we were seeing, you know, the onset of the Great Depression, and there were financial, you know, systems that were collapsing. This was forcing us to all have to completely restructure how we were doing business, how we were trading, you know, what was going on with the health of the economy. And, you know, I mean, they're all very similar things. Something collapses, something new is reborn. Now, I think that if we look at all 3 of these, there's one kind of common pattern across the cycles throughout the last 100 years. Needing to really practice economic realism, needing to really get real about what is and is not working with top-down structures, with big business, with control, with leadership, and also governments. Leadership accountability is going to be a huge theme in 2026, and we're going to start to kind of see who's been pulling the strings behind, you know, the curtain. We're also going to see where people are leading us, but they're leading us astray, and where some of this leadership, especially revolving around economic policies, banking policies, really isn't working. So in the past, we've seen this materialize as structural crisis resolved, and likely that's a result of things being exposed. Now, it has to be exposed through discipline. So in 2026, I think that it's really echoing some of those same themes, right? After all these planets go through Capricorn, we're going to see in late January, early February, they got to meet up with Pluto and Aquarius. So it's about the change and the transformation, the major revolutions that are happening, and it's about power to the people. Now, we will also then see Saturn and Neptune shift next month. So this is kind of the setup where you're going to see that there is a major push to really get ready and get prepared for what's happening in the future, especially when it comes to currency, when it's coming to leadership. Now, Saturn is the ruler of all this Capricorn, right? I keep calling it the goat party in the sky. And we're going to see that Saturn is now direct. It's also conjunct Neptune, and it's only going to be here for a very short period of time, really up until about mid-February. And with Saturn as the ruler in conjunction to Neptune, there's still this kind of confusion as to, well, who is running things, and like who's in charge, and like who can we trust, and like are things going to be okay? And this does deal with the global economy, trade, you know, borders, all of that stuff, because that's what Saturn really deals with in this sign. And so we are going to see that this is taking on the theme of, okay, what has and has not been working? Where do we need to be a little bit more serious? Where do we need to really focus on maturity? Maybe there needs to be better boundaries. Maybe we are facing some kind of karmic reckoning. Maybe there are long-term consequences that are starting to kind of dominate and show itself in our relationships, in our finances, and also in our values. Now with Venus and Mars Cazimi in this sign, it means it's carrying Saturn's weight. And Saturn is about not being superficial in love. We also see that with Mars being there, there can be impulsive actions, and that we only really feel passionate and like we're willing to work for or go after what we truly want, what we truly value. Now tying this into the Saturn-Neptune conjunction, because they are conjunct right now by about 3 degrees, but we will see building from the end of 2025 into mid-February 2026, eventually there's going to be that conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees. This in itself is significant because it's a 36-year cycle. The last one we had in 1989, when the Berlin Wall fell, and it was like really this end of, some of the kind of power struggles that were going on in Eastern Europe. We also saw that there was a lot of rigid ideologies that were kind of going on. And that really focused on dissolving illusions when it comes to power and control, Capricorn. So it's really forcing us, or forging, I guess I should say, under Saturn and Neptune to get more realistic about our dreams. So this January stellium is really kind of grounding out all of this energy in the final phase of Saturn and Neptune being in Pisces. And I think it's going to dissolve some global relationships. Now it's doing that because it's trying to focus on practical action, but also recognizing what has failed, what is going on behind the scenes, what's actually working against us, what's not assisting us as we kind of move into the future. To add even more spice to an already spicy transit, all of this will be happening in opposition to Jupiter in Cancer. Now Jupiter is retrograde. It's going to be sitting around 21 to 19 degrees. And as we see this opposition, which will be most exact around the 9th and the 10th of January, this is really making all of this feel bigger. This is about emotional expansion versus, kind of Capricorn's tradition, control, responsibility. And we'll see that there can be a lot of challenges happening revolving around family and home demands that are going to be clashing with our ambition, clashing with our careers, our relationships with superiors. People who are having issues with elders or having issues with bosses can also come up with this opposition. So it's really this kind of nostalgia versus progress, where we've been in the past versus where we want to go in the future. And if we get too stuck in the past and kind of harbor feelings or be unwilling to change, it's going to make it harder for us to kind of go forward. So our emotions really can kind of get kicked up a lot this week. I think the gifts of this opposition is that we can really work with it. A lot of modern astrologers perhaps see oppositions a little bit differently than traditional astrologers. I've always seen it as something that's kind of like the backbone of a chart, and it really teaches you through that stress that you have to find the middle ground so we can be more mature and we can kind of integrate the need for emotional security and expansion with our long-term goals, and we can use that as fuel to kind of get to where we want to go. Now, the degree theory is really interesting because these conjunctions are going to be kind of clustered over a period of a couple days between 16 and 19 degrees of Capricorn. So look at your chart. Do you have anything there? I'd say 15 to 20 of either Capricorn, Aries, Cancer, or Libra. If so, it's going to be quite a jam-packed, week or so for you guys. But when I looked at the degree theory, we've got 16 degrees, and this is where we're going to see the Cazimi that's going to start. That's going to be a Cancer degree if you follow degree theory. So even though it's in Capricorn, it's representing the kind of opposite sign. So it's even highlighting and touching on, the Jupiter opposition, I think, just through the expression of that degree. And Cancer degrees are always about nurturing, it's emotional. And in Capricorn, it's more protective. It's about kind of rebirth and really focusing on building security from within, emotionally, being rooted, right? Then we'll see a 17 and an 18 degree that's going to get activated, and that's going to be taking on the energy of Leo through the 17 and Virgo through the 18. So Leo is the heart. It's about joy, creativity, romance. It's about leadership. And then we've got Virgo, which has a strong kind of connection and correlation with organization, refinement, health, and keeping things in order. So this is going to be very dramatic when it comes to our confidence and our attention to detail. Then finally, we're going to see the last kind of Sabian or the degree theory that's going to get triggered, 19 degrees of Capricorn. Now, this is a Libra degree. Libra degrees are about finding balanced harmony, diplomacy, partnership focus, fair resolutions. That always kind of comes up. So there's going to be this sense of, I think, putting it all together with the combined flavor, really disciplined ambition that is nurturing our heart-centered, more meticulous and kind of balanced energies in that Capricorn area of our chart. So if we expand on this a little bit further and we look at the Sabian symbols, I always round up for the Sabian symbols. So even though we're seeing, the conjunctions that are going to be taking place at 16, 18, 19, we will actually be looking at 17, 18, 19, and 20. And I just want to read them to you guys really quick, because the Sabian symbols oftentimes will give us even a little bit more food for thought. Sometimes it never ceases to amaze me how sometimes some of the Sabian symbols can materialize in our own lives or out in the world. So for the Venus Cazimi that's taking place at 16 degrees and 22 minutes, 17 degrees of Capricorn says a girl serendipitously bathing in the nude. The Sabian symbol is about deep psychological liberation. It's also about shedding layers of societal repression and like not feeling embarrassed about being in that natural state. It's about dealing with shame. It's also connected to outdated values around worth, beauty, or desire. There is this sense of vulnerability with the Sabian symbol and how vulnerability can become our greatest strength. So connecting this to the transits in 2026, I think we're going to see collective and personal release of rigid self-worth standards. This is really going to be more about embracing authentic desires without any apologies. I think tying it to kind of the Saturn and Neptune energy, it's about kind of dissolving illusions around status and control. Now for Capricorn 18, where we're going to see the Venus-Mars conjunction, this is the Union Jack flies a warship. This is a degree that is about political authority. It's about disciplined power, national pride, and protective oversight. So this symbol is about controlled strength. It's also about supervision of territory and resources. I think it's about the rise of accountable leadership. I think it's going to also be about the rise of really notable people who are going to be in positions of power, government, even armed forces, and the boundaries that are going to be enforced more so maturely. And we're going to see people who are going to be working together to see that through. The potential is that we could see a lot of patriotic or institutional reforms. If we look at some of the echoes of the past, like in 1994, when we saw some of these degrees that got triggered, obviously this is when we saw NAFTA, and we also saw kind of the fallout after the Berlin Wall fell, and people trying to kind of unify and working together to kind of strengthen state powers. For 19 degrees of Capricorn, where we're going to see some of the conjunctions taking place as well, this is a child of about 5 carrying a huge shopping bag filled with groceries, assuming responsibilities far beyond one's age or years, right? Children kind of, taking on the roles and the responsibility of adults. This is also about really building the ability to take on responsibilities, to kind of deal with heavy loads in our lives. And this symbol is really about premature maturity leading to long-term strength. Now, in context, I think collectively and personally, it's really going to show where people have been shouldering and taking on a lot of the economic decisions that have been made by government and how it's been impacting our home, our families, our lives, our ability to feel safe, our ability to expand, and also the impacts that that's having on home ownership with Jupiter and Cancer. It does make it relational in a way, and it's also about kind of looking at some of the burdens and restructuring them so that way we can have better faith in leadership. And it really resonates especially with some of the things that kind of happened during the 1930s cycle when we look at people having to plant victory gardens and having to preserve foods and having to can things and be more resourceful, and all of the younger kind of generations, our grandparents that kind of came from that time that really had to learn how to be mature and help take care of families and, their homes, and even resources or farming from a very young age. Then finally, with the Mars Cazimi that we're going to see at 20 degrees, this is going to be connected to it'll be 19 degrees, but it's being connected to the 20 degree Sabian symbol, a hidden choir singing during a religious service. So I like this degree a lot. This is about unseen spiritual support that comes through. This is also about finding inner harmony and some kind of collective faith working on our behalf behind the scenes. Invisible forces, really, I think is the lot of it. And, you know, Saturn and Neptune and Pisces could be that as well. It's also about inspiration backing some of our visible efforts. Maybe it's faith, maybe it's religion, maybe it's a spiritual practice, but this ties beautifully to the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that's building. You know, even as old dreams are dissolving, a deeper or more spiritual kind of collective harmony is sustaining us, and it's helping us focus on what we actually need to let go of so we can move forward and rebuild in the future. So putting it all together, you know, if we look at the story, putting the Sabian symbols side by side, this is about hidden liberation that's coming. This is about reclaiming structured authority within ourselves. This is also about, yes, in order to do so, we're going to have to really bear some burdens that feel a little bit more than what we're kind of used to. But this is also about, in the process of that, kind of discovering unseen divine spiritual support. And this is the exact blueprint for 2026 energy in a nutshell. Now, personally, I think it's going to depend on what's going on your chart. So this is really where it really pays to kind of know your personal astrology. But on a personal level, I see this as an opportunity to kind of realign the heart, being Venus, and the will, being Mars, towards lasting goals and serious commitments. Maybe we're being a little bit more financially disciplined. Maybe our self-worth is more so rooted in achievement rather than physical things. While collectively, we're going to see more of an emphasis on leadership accountability, and more importantly, what leaders are doing behind closed doors. There is going to be some harsh realities coming about what's happening with the economy, both where you live and also around the world, and more of an emphasis on mature handling of power as well as resources. Now, we'll see that there's going to be pragmatic reforms that are going to be coming up over the next 2 months. We're also going to see a huge push to kind of out long-standing politicians and people in positions of power who have been sitting around doing nothing, that are okay with just the old ways, while new, younger generations are going to push forward, and they're going to be really feeling like revolutionaries that want to kind of get involved with how we are going to rebuild this mess that we seem to kind of find ourselves in. And that means that, you know, for us to do that, we have to really focus on maturity. This is a very strong period for a lot of us to feel like we have more confidence and also be really pushing for working together. Mars and Venus wants to work together. So strong period for contracts, strong period for investments, for career launches, for relationship milestones. Globally, I think this is going to be a big kind of growing up period, especially in, in institutions and people who are going to be in positions in government. As for what this is going to feel like, well, it depends on what you got going on in your chart, but I actually think that it's going to be one of the more productive kind of energies in 2026. It's a disciplined glow up. That's really what it is. And maybe it means that now we have to have serious conversations in relationships. Maybe we feel that there is this sense of finally getting ready to make some big changes in our career, maybe in our financial goals. And this is about being more mature and kind of reclaiming our power. With Mars being connected to passion, meeting with Venus connected to, values, under the sun's illumination, really what this does is it really tells us we can build it. We can't take any shortcuts. Only enduring, long-lasting commitments are going to be worth it. And obviously with that opposition and that tension to Jupiter, it can feel like this emotional pull between security and being a little bit more nostalgic versus ambition and forward motion. So we have to navigate this by setting boundaries, and I think really kind of integrating our heart with strategy. And if we can do that, we're going to leave January feeling a lot more empowered. We're going to have made some major power moves. We're going to feel that we've taken on the month in a very strategic fashion, and we're ready to step into February and initiate some new things. So let me know how you guys are feeling with this. It is quite the transit over this week. Let's get into the week at a glance, and we're going to go day by day and discuss what the moon is doing, what the major aspects are, but know that this is in play basically all week long. Now, I will take you guys through the 12 rising signs after we do the astro weather for the week, so just hang tight and we'll be doing that. And we're going to start first with January 4th, 2026. Happy Sunday to my Sunday crew. Thank you guys for taking me with you. I know some of you guys are going to the grocery store, you're running errands, you're working out. I'm hanging out with you and your family. So thank you guys for including me in your weekly ritual. How are you guys doing post full moon? You feeling okay? It's been a lot. Whatever's taking place the last 48 hours is basically the big announcement, or like the big kind of warning that's like, hey, whatever's going on now is going to feel even bigger as we get into mid-January. So take note. Now on the 4th, as you guys are waking up, depending on where you are in the world, at the very beginning of the morning, around 7 Central, I'm here in Texas, the moon is still in Pisces and it's the moon is still in Cancer and it's trining Neptune in Pisces, okay? So this is the last major aspect that the moon is going to be making. Maybe we're feeling a little sleepy. Maybe we're feeling like we just want to kind of stay cozy, stay at home and, kind of keep to ourselves, be with the family. If you're waking up after that point, then the moon is going to be moving into Leo, where it will spend the next couple of days. So once that moon moves into Leo, it's not in this watery, emotional kind of like cocoon. Now it's moving into a solar sign, and it's really going to be putting an emphasis on what is happening with the sun. And if you guys look, the sun is conjunct Mars in Capricorn. So they are side by side. Venus is also conjunct. Venus is combust. So there is a sense of being like, whoa, there's a lot of Capricorn stuff that's kind of going on. That area of your chart is going to be lit up. When the moon's in Leo, we want romance, we want to take chances, we want to have fun, we want to play. But all this Sun, Mars, Venus stuff is like work, 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 especially because it's 6 signs away from the moon. So even though we're feeling like we want to have some fun, kick back, hang out with the kids, wine and dine, unfortunately, it seems like a rather busy kind of work-oriented, productive Sunday. Now, what you guys are also going to find is that the moon going into Leo is going to oppose Pluto in Aquarius. So there is some tension in the skies this morning that is really heating up right around the time of noon as it opposes at 2. So there could be some drama over money, resources, our values, anything like that. Leo is more personal. Aquarius is more the collective. So there can be a little bit of friction there. The other thing is that Venus, Mars, and Sun conjunction is tightening. So right now it's combust and it's going to be building into the cazimis later in the week. The only thing I think that is kind of like the saving grace is as we are getting later into the day, we start to see the moon come out of that opposition with Pluto. So it's going to ease up here. It's going to go into the evening. And that's pretty much all that we're going to see happening on Sunday on the 4th. So basically, Sunday's kind of vibes are bold for creativity and heart-centered things. So hobbies, playtime, children, all that stuff. But we're going to see some power struggles midday with that opposition to Pluto. So it brings up some intense emotions. It can surface. There is definitely this healing emphasis that's going to be coming in going into Monday. That's more about healing confidence, healing wounds. So what do I think we should be doing on Sunday? I think that this is about more leaning into what makes me happy, right? Even if it's not what other people want to do, or even if that's not like their cup of tea, maybe this is about a hobby, something creative. Maybe this is about playful self-expression. If there is some ego clashes that come up midday, try to kind of resist stirring the pot and take it easy and focus on getting some stuff done in the Capricorn area, because the sun is really kind of highlighting that through the connection with the moon. This will take us into Monday, which is the 5th. And when we wake up in the morning, the moon is still in Aries, and the moon is still in Leo. I'm looking at Chiron, sorry guys. The moon is still in Leo, and it's going to be making in conjuncts to all this Capricorn. So the moon's going to in conjunct Venus, the sun, and also Mars. And that's a little frustrating because this is a transit that is very much guided by the sun. So as that happens, basically what we're going to be seeing is that, yeah, there's some friction that's kind of going on. Something is kind of getting rubbed the wrong way. There's also this stellium now that's really starting to build in intensity. That's going to be the huge focus for the day. My thought is that as the moon is moving through, move that, Leo, it's not really connecting with anything. You're going to see the inconjuncts or the quincunx basically from 8 a.m. Central all the way until 1 p.m. So there's one side of the chart that just is very steadfast and productive and very logical and realistic. And then there's the moon that doesn't really want to do that stuff. It's not really seeing eye to eye. As the day goes on, we will then see the moon start coming into a trine with Chiron in the evening hours. So that's going to be about, well, healing through art and focusing on confidence and releasing things and maybe not taking life so seriously and learning to be more kind of expressive and owning our own authenticity. So on Monday, you guys are definitely going to be feeling more or less there is going to be adjustments that kind of need to be made between dramatic emotions of the moon in Leo and practical ambitions with all those planets that are in Capricorn. We might feel a little off. We might feel a little critical. So I think to navigate Monday, this is really about kind of, making the adjustments as necessary, maybe focusing more on, okay, where can I be kind of committed? Where can I have more of a routine? Maybe we need a little bit more discipline. And we're also kind of grounding our emotions through something that is going to be connected to our long-term goals. Now, as the evening goes on, you're going to see that trine to Chiron in the evening hours, and then the moon is going to continue on into the late degrees of Leo, and that'll be taking place on the 6th later in the morning. And we will see a moon in Leo square Uranus and Taurus. So this is going to be a time to watch. There could definitely be some market turbulence. Obviously, Uranus deals with unexpected shifts and changes and, kind of pivots. It's going to be about media and news connecting maybe to gold, obviously Leo, or things that are connecting to metals, things that deal with banking restructures, and the media kind of talking about what's happening with the market. Now we're coming into, what will be later in the week, the last quarter square. So things are kind of breaking down. Now, when I look at the 6th, more or less, I think there can be a little bit of stress and tension in the morning. And then right after that square, which is going to be around 7 a.m. Central, then we're going to see the moon dip into Virgo, and that's going to be later in the afternoon or late morning, kind of early afternoon. When the moon goes into Virgo, we are focusing on routine, we are focusing on health, we are focusing on habits, and now it's going to really start highlighting this energy of Mercury being in Capricorn. So eventually we'll see the moon coming into a trine with Mercury. Lots of earth trines means we're kind of feeling a little bit more grounded the second half of Tuesday. Basically, there is going to be, I think, with, the 6th, the Cazimi emerging between Venus and the sun. So that's going to be at 16 degrees. The superior conjunction, the new star point. And then also there is a triple alignment, 16, 16. That'll be at 16 early in the day. And this is going to be a huge emphasis on leadership when it comes to homeland security, anything that deals with homes, houses, properties. I think that we're going to be hearing a lot about that stuff. And this is that peak illumination day where we're going to see an emphasis on values, money, love, and getting a little bit more clarity in a mature fashion when it comes to what we're going after, what our goals are, and being a little bit more strategic with some of this passion. So as the day goes on, you'll see the moon continue to move through Virgo, and it is going to come into a trine in the late evening hours, kind of overnight, with Mercury. So it feels very kind of more productive, communicative, things like that on Tuesday night. And then we will see in the overnight hours, the moon will come into conjunction with the south node. So to navigate Tuesday, my thought is that this is about maybe setting intentions under that Venus Cazimi, about relationships, about self-worth, maybe meditating on some of your long-term desires. And I say that because all this Capricorn is feeding off of Saturn, and Saturn's at 26. So this is about making our dreams a reality, Saturn, Neptune, but it's about physical things, bringing physical things into our reality. The 12th house is where things end and conclude, but it can also be vision boards, it can be manifestation, meditation, things like that. So this is a good, I think, manifestational day. I think you're going to see this actually Tuesday into Wednesday, believe it or not, with the Cazimi and some of the other aspects that are kind of playing out. Now we watch that moon in Virgo come into conjunction with the south node. So if you're like up late or even up early the next morning, the moon conjuncting the south node is a lot of emotional clearing, cleansing, getting rid of rigid habits, not worrying about things as much, not being as nitpicky. And while that's happening, it's also coming into a trine with Mercury early in the morning. So if you're up early on Wednesday, and I mean early because this is happening like 5, 6, 7 a.m. Central Time, can be quite productive. But if you're not an early riser, don't worry. You're going to still see lots of trines that are going to be happening between the moon in Virgo and all these planets that are going to be in Capricorn. So I actually really kind of like the 7th. This is Wednesday. That moon is going to leave the conjunction with the south node, and that'll happen around 6 a.m. And then by the time we're getting into later in the day, Then the moon's going to start coming into a trine with the sun and Venus and Mars. So actually some of the best stuff is going to be in the late afternoon, early evening hours on Wednesday the 7th, where we see the moon that's still slightly in a trine to Mercury. So it's enhancing communications, especially with health-related people, doctors, or talking to vets, or dealing with clients, or some kind of customer service, or anything revolving around health, organization, and work service. And then it's also trining the sun, which means everything just kind of comes into, like its groove. Maybe for those of you guys who are going back to work, let's say on Monday, you're going to feel like you're not really actually being productive and getting back into the swing of things until kind of like Wednesday afternoon. But it's okay. That's when we're going to be able to get a lot of work done, I think Wednesday and Thursday. Then we're also going to see the moon start coming into a trine with Venus. So it's harmonizing love, money, values, and Mars, which is going to be about getting a lot of work done. So wow, what a great day on Wednesday afternoon. This will also be the day that Venus and Mars are conjuncting. So Venus will move into a conjunction with Mars, and that's perfecting right around the time that the moon is trining. So look at that. Look at around 7 p.m. Central Time, where the moon's at 17, getting ready to go to 18, and it's going to trine Venus and Mars. So around dinner time, I would say, on the 7th on Wednesday. Well, what is 18 degrees? Work, right? It's organization, it's health. These are Virgo degrees, stuff that deals with pets. It's about kind of analyzing things. I love this. I think this is probably going to be one of the strongest periods all week. With the moon in harmony with the sun, it means that now we're starting to get more practical. We're kind of building, we're figuring out what's not working, what we need to take apart, what we need to release. And it's also really emphasizing relationship to health, to habits, to work, and working well with other people. Even if you're working like a late night on Wednesday, it looks like it's going to be productive. With that Mars and Venus conjunction, this is about passion and also, values that are fusing. So we see a lot of harmonious flow that's going to be taking place, and it's going to feel quite productive. It's also very romantic. There's a lot of sexy energy when Mars and Venus are conjunct, but it's also kind of classy. It's traditional. It's not showy. It's not raunchy. It has discipline, and there's an opportunity to really kind of expand emotionally if we're working together through the trine with the moon. So honestly, later afternoon on Wednesday, things just get better and better. If you're feeling like having like a midweek date, if you're feeling like having a meeting or an office meeting or a dinner meeting, with clients or with other people that you're working with, Wednesday night would be a really wonderful time to do that. And I think to navigate Wednesday, this is about maybe waiting until you get into kind of the midday, and then, really taking strategic action when it comes to love, career, and also nurturing our home ties. Because while all of this is happening, the moon is going to come into a sextile with Jupiter in Cancer. So we're going to feel more emotionally secure if we're doing Virgo things, right? If we are working, if we're applying to jobs, if we're getting organized, if we're staying on task, if we have a schedule, and things are just going to be absolutely flowing beautifully. So loving, loving, loving Wednesday night. As the evening goes on, you're going to start to lose the trines, and then we're going to go into what will be January the 8th, which is going to be Thursday. And when we wake up on Thursday, the moon's doing some things. So this doesn't have as much of that productive energy that we have had on Wednesday. Maybe we're feeling a little burnt out, okay? And it's possible with all these planets at 18, right, in Capricorn. But the moon is now starting to come into an opposition with Saturn where we feel a little emotionally stretched. We're also kind of dealing with some dilemmas where it's like, well, do I want to be productive, keep working, go to the gym, get things organized, or, do I need to be more focused on rest or on sleep? Or we can kind of feel that we've been burning the candle at both ends. The other thing that's going to happen is then we are going to see it come into an opposition with Neptune at 29 degrees. So it can mean that there's some emotional confusion. We're not really seeing things very clearly. That's going to be happening in the early evening hours. And then the moon is going to ingress and it's going to move into Libra, and that's going to be happening on Thursday night. Now, it's interesting because, look, when we started the week with the moon in Leo on Sunday, it's tying it back to the sun in Capricorn. When the moon goes into Virgo, it's tying it back to Mercury in Capricorn. When the moon goes into Libra, it's tying it back to Venus in Capricorn. It's very obvious to me that the universe is saying, hey guys, the Capricorn area of your chart, it's kind of a big deal right now. So let's just kind of get the show on the road. And even with the connection to the moon and Jupiter, which is in opposition, it's basically saying,
we have to see what's out of balance in our life right now. For some of us, we're working too much, not paying attention to our emotions. For others, there's way too much focusing on staying in the past, not wanting to move into the future, not being ready, and missing opportunities to really have a glow up or kind of mature or really kind of take 2026 by the reins and say that this is going to be the year. So I think that with all of the aspects, it's really kind of saying the same thing. So as the moon goes into Libra on Thursday night, there is a vibe shift. As it goes into that, basically now what we're going to be focusing on is relationships. We're focusing on long-term relationships and goals because Venus is in Capricorn. Venus is also conjunct Mars. So like as a Libra rising, to kind of give you guys context, because all of this is going to be 4 signs away from the Libra moon. It's been a lot of like, okay, you know, are we moving? What are we doing? What's going on with family? Where is there a lot of work being done in the home? We're focusing on kind of getting everything set up for the new year. So some of you guys may feel that. You don't have to be a Libra rising to feel that, but it's 4 signs away. So it's a lot of reflecting on what kind of needs to get done and, you know, also kind of dealing with responsibility when it kind of comes to the home life. The Libra moon says, well, how do we do this together? Or are we getting feedback from a therapist? Are we talking to an astrologer? Are we talking to our spouse or our partners about what our goals are and what we're hoping to kind of build and, you know, kind of develop? What I like about the ingress to the Libra moon taking place on Thursday night is it's then going to start trining Pluto. So then it can really focus on what the long-term goals are, what transformations are taking place, where there's a lot of power working together, having diplomacy, kind of bringing everything to fruition. And it's an air element, so it's going to be more social, it's more communicative, it's more also about, I think, planning things, connecting with people. So this is a time where if you're wanting to do something social, if you're wanting to connect with people, if you're wanting to send out invites, if you're wanting to, you know, get out and meet somebody, this can be a good time. But it is highlighting that Venus-Mars conjunction where it's saying it wants something more refined, it wants something more kind of long-term. Now, on the 8th, we also see that buildup that's happening with the Mars Cazimi. So now Mars is right in front of the sun. So we have the Cazimi this day, all tying back to what? Saturn and Neptune. So it's saying in order to get serious about where we're going, we kind of have to maybe scrap some of the plans or, you know, kind of be aware of our blind spots, or maybe we have to be willing to get out of bed, or we have to not be afraid to kind of let go of the past. So there will be, I think, early in the day, with that moon in opposition to Saturn and Neptune, look, there's going to be some reality checks that are going to come up when it comes to our dreams, and also where there could be some illusions. Then as it goes into Libra, we have more of this shift into partnerships, and, you know, we need more balance, and maybe we're getting feedback from other people. So to navigate Thursday, this is about releasing outdated boundaries. This is about being more innovative in our relationships. This is about working together and finding ways to get excited about what we're kind of planning or kind of doing in the Capricorn area of our chart. Now, it'll pick up that trine to Pluto in the evening hours around 10 p.m. Central. Then we're going to start to see it continue to move through Libra into the 9th, which will be Friday. And now this is where we start to see things get a little uncomfortable, guys. Okay, so this is where you're going to notice Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is going to be like, oh my God, what is going on? It's like everything all at once. Number one is that while that moon's going through Libra, it is going to start coming into a square with Mercury. And Libra is more, let's talk about it. How do we find a middle ground? How do we work together? Da 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 da. And Capricorn's more kind of militant, and it likes to kind of give orders and, you know, tell people what to do. And maybe because the moon's in a superior kind of angle here, just maybe it means that if we work together, we can better balance what's going on with our home and our family stuff. It's like where we're asking people for help, or where our therapist is giving us insight, or where, you know, we're learning to kind of talk to our family, talk to our partners, and be like, hey, you know, I've got this going on. How can we meet in the middle and find ways to do both? At least that's how I've kind of seen it. You know, I think that you're not going to really start to see the pressure until the moon is starting to come into a square with Mercury. So there's some difficult communication stuff happening in the evening hours when the Libra moon squares Mercury in Capricorn. So it's not best for trying to have meetings. It's not necessarily best for relationships, communication, you know, stress between relationships and kind of career responsibilities. Definitely are going to be kind of coming up. Now, the other thing that's also going to be happening this day is that we are going to be seeing Venus in Capricorn opposing Jupiter in Cancer, and it's at a 20. So this is a Scorpio degree. So it deals with change, transformation, death, rebirth, renewal. Remember the themes of the Cazimi, where we talked about 4 years ago that things were like ending and kind of wrapping up, or new intentions were being fused. now that we've seen the Cazimi happen, and it's still carrying that energy because it's conjunct the sun, it's saying, okay, now we're going to make this even bigger and enable to, you know, make both of our professional or our dreams out in the world and also at home possible. We have to work together, Libra. So watch some of the communication stuff with the moon square Mercury. That's not as friendly around 6 p.m. Central. And Venus will be in opposition, it looks like, earlier in the day. So that's going to be right around 11 a.m. to noon Central time. And when Venus and Jupiter oppose, we can overdo things, overeat, overspend, things feel overinflated. I think we are going to be hearing some stuff about inflation, to be honest with you guys, or a lot of hot topics about kind of moves to kind of improve the housing market, or where, you know, there's going to be more availability for people to be able to kind of get in and purchase homes. So there's going to be lots of talk about some of the incentives to grow or expand homes, families, neighborhoods, and also just the ability for people to feel safe and secure at home. However, overeating, you know, getting the sugar bug, overspending, overindulging, maybe feeling that some relationship themes, you know, are also at a distance, it's an opposition, can kind of come up. So we will see both with the Venus opposed Jupiter, the Mars Cazimi, which is going to be happening that day, the opposition to Jupiter, and then the moon coming into a square with Mercury. Holy cow, Friday is just like nuts. So we are going to be feeling on Friday that tension's going to start to peak, and it's going to last all weekend long. I'm just telling you guys this now. And this is about ambition versus what's going on with emotional insecurity needs. Big picture clarity on commitments, guys. Stay focused with the Mars, Venus, Sun, and Capricorn. Now, to navigate Friday, I would say we need balance, right? We need balance between ourselves and others. We really want to watch for overindulging. We also want to maybe channel some of this energy into making fair decisions, not being kind of, you know, knee-jerk decisions in investments or job or, you know, with money or with anything, because we almost need like a sounding board with this Libra moon to be like, should I be moving? Should we be taking this job? Should we be doing this? Because some people are going to feel very impulsive to make some very big changes. Okay, so channel that into fair decisions. And then watch for when the moon comes into a square with Mercury. Not great for communication, especially at the dinner table. I think that some people are going to be working later. They have a lot of work, which is causing some relational kind of issues. And I think just the Venus in opposition to Jupiter is saying a lot of the same thing, to be honest with you guys. And then the moon's going to continue to keep going through Libra, and that will lead us into what's going to be Saturday, which is January the 10th. Now, the cardinal squares continue, and it's going to be just as equally intense on Saturday, because when we wake up in the morning, the moon is in Libra. It's going to come into a square with Jupiter in Cancer, so it's going to make all of the home and family stuff really bring up some relational dynamics, which feel bigger emotions, bigger kind of need for support. And the moon is going to square Mars in Capricorn. It's going to square the sun in Capricorn. It's going to oppose Chiron in Aries. Holy cardinal cross, guys. And this is all happening at 20 to 22 degrees. To be specific, I mean, something big I think is going to be happening over the weekend. You know, Capricorn deals with not just government leaderships. Capricorn deals with long-standing structures, long-standing policies, things that have been kind of in place for a very long time. And it's probably going to be some big announcements about some initiatives that are being made by government to, you know, support failing systems, Saturn and Neptune. All of this is ruled by Jupiter. Jupiter is dealing with what? Laws, houses, families, anything that deals with immigration, because Saturn and Neptune deals with borders and, you know, foreigners, and also just money and funds that have been spent. So you're going to hear a lot about like, well, what money is going into what programs, and like what's going on with taxes. And you're going to hear a lot of people talking about, well, what are we paying for versus what are we getting? Remember, Mars is that connection to Scorpio. So it's about taxes, it's about interest rates, it's about what we're putting into something and whether or not we're feeling like we're getting something out of it. And it's going to make all of these things feel much, much bigger. And that connection to Saturn and Neptune is kind of saying, to be fair, this is not me politicking. It's like, where's our money been going? Like, what has it been paying for? And is this benefiting us? And people are going to be very emotional. And this is why I think we're seeing a lot of people who are, you know, kind of talking on the internet about being like, yeah, we need to have a tax revolt. And I'm not saying you should do that. I'm just saying people are going to get really angry about what they're giving up or what they're letting go of, or what they're not able to have with Jupiter retrograde. And there's going to be so much more pressure on leadership, so much more pressure on leadership. And as all of this happens, these cardinal degrees that are getting triggered at 20 is a Scorpio degree. That's a 22, but these are all 20s. So it's basically saying that there needs to be some pretty dramatic changes that are happening out in the world, but also in our own lives. And likely some relationship stuff is going to kind of get kicked off. That's going to get sparked. And it's going to be about accountability, responsibility, maturity, and like where people are or are not showing up, or being transparent or being honest, or where they're kind of shying away from showing up in the world. So watch for the tension on the 9th. I think really this is about finding a way to kind of balance yourself with others. And like I said, avoiding some of the overindulgence that's happening on Friday. And then as we get into Saturday and we see all these squares, you know, the cardinal energies are going to make everything happen at one time. So we feel the tension. We just need to hold and realize that we need to take a breath. Some of the clashes that come up are going to be between initiative, partnerships, home, and career. And we feel like we're at a four-way stop. What I like about this, and being somebody who has some of these exact same degrees, is that I've noticed when planets go through Libra, it's like me going like, nope, we got to do this. We got to do this together. We got to do this now. So there's a lot of breakthrough potential. I also think that to navigate on, Saturday the 10th, take a breath. All right. Don't feel like you have to fight it out. Don't feel like you're, the odd man out. Certainly the moon in opposition to Chiron can make you feel that. But with the moon coming into a square with the sun, this is the last quarter square. So this is the fallout since the full moon in Cancer, where there was a lot of other things that were happening, where we saw full moon conjunct Jupiter squaring Chiron. So now we work together to really focus on, harnessing some of this productive Capricorn energy. And during the last quarter square, now we start to feel things break down. So what could break down? Leadership roles, accountability, responsibility. We could see some relationships that get tested. Breathe through the conflict. Try to compromise with that moon in Libra. Realize that you probably have a lot of the same goals as, your partner or your boss or your business partners. And that, really this is like teamwork is the dream work. And if we can do that, then major shifts are definitely possible. Now, the tension is going to be the strongest, basically around 9 a.m. Saturday. It's not going to stop until the moon comes out of an opposition with Chiron around 1 p.m. And then we are going to start to see this ease up as the moon starts moving through Libra in the afternoon hours. Right after that happens, we are then going to see the moon come into an inconjunct or a quincunx with Saturn and Neptune. So we're trying to kind of work together to gain clarity on like our blind spots and what's kind of missing. At least the moon's not squaring a bunch of stuff on Saturday night. So if you're wanting to kind of do something in a partnership sense, definitely like 7 p.m. Central Time on is better. Otherwise, there's going to be a lot of people who are going to go, oh, we had plans, and they're going to go, yeah, but my family needs me, or, oh, I've got something going on at work, or, like things aren't just, they're just going to seem like they're like a little jumbled. So watch for the shifts that are going to happen. And then overnight, the moon will continue to go through Libra, and it will in conjunct Neptune. And then when we wake up on Sunday, the 11th, the moon is going to be in Scorpio. Now, with the moon going into Scorpio, obviously totally different vibe. Now this is going to be more about introspection. It's more intense. It's about purging. It's transformation. It's also got a lot of depth. And so what's interesting now is now Pluto moves from a 2 to 3. So Pluto is like on the move. Pluto's going to go from, I believe, like 2 degrees all the way to 5 degrees in 2026. So it's at a new degree, guys. 3 is what? Media, communication, what we're saying, what we're writing, what we're learning, and changes and transformations that's going on with like media and also with learning. So the moon coming into a square with Pluto is like a double dose on Sunday morning of just like a lot of Scorpio energy. So there could be some really intense communications going on from the morning into about midday on Sunday, the 11th. And with those squares, what you're going to find is that now it's highlighting not just the moon square Pluto, where like there's this like emotional purge and kind of detox, and like, secrets are coming out and people are becoming kind of like enraged or inflamed about it. But now this is highlighting what? Mars. Literally every single lunar transit this week is pointing back to the stellium in Capricorn. We don't get a break. No, Capricorn and Scorpio are friendly, right? They sextile each other. So it will be beneficial in that sense. Kind of Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday, we'll see those sextiles. But it's still pointing to, well, now we've got, Mars that's exalted and it's combust with the sun and it's with Venus. And there's been just this huge emphasis on this area of our chart. And it's really kind of saying there's still a lot of post-Cazimi integrations. There's still a lot of things that have kind of come up this week where we're like, okay, now we're having to kind of move this or kind of focus on our goals or kind of, blend this into our life. So Sunday to me feels like there's going to be a lot of intensity. There's a lot of depth. It's obviously about maybe transformative conversations with the moon squaring Pluto at a 3, maybe with siblings, maybe with our neighbors. And there's going to be power dynamics that are going to start to surface. Now, as we move through the day, the moon is going to keep going through Scorpio, and it looks like it won't be until the evening hours that we're going to start seeing the moon coming into a trine with the north node and a sextile with the south node. It's going to be overnight. So I think to navigate on Sunday, this is really about going, all right, we have to really dive into shadow work. We have to release control. We have to embrace vulnerability. And I think what the Mars-Venus conjunctions have taught me is like we have to ask for help. And we also have to realize where our loyalties lie. Capricorn is a sign known for its loyalty, and that we have to be loyal to those who are working with us, building with us. We have to focus on nurturing those relationships and maybe being a little bit more understanding and sympathetic, kind of, injecting some of this kind of Saturn and Pisces stuff into it. But the moon's not really going to be making any aspects. You're going to watch it go, like I said, all the way from late Cancer, all the way into Scorpio. So there is this huge focus on home and then creativity and then organization and then partnership and then transformation. And at least the beginning of next week, we're going to start to see some of these sextiles and things that are happening. But boy, oh boy, all of the Capricorn transits get triggered all week. That's just like wild. And the oppositions. So, Venus in opposition, the sun in opposition, Mars in opposition. That's the other thing that I wanted to touch on. I kind of talked about it a little bit, but it looks like the sun's going to oppose Jupiter on the 9th, and it looks like Mars is going to oppose Jupiter on the 10th. So remember, Mars drive, working versus expanding at home, ego and our passions and our power versus expanding at home. We're seeing it carry out throughout the entire week. So it's not just one or two isolated transits. You're going to see the back and forth. And the moon is really dictating and determining how's it going to go. Easiest days are going to be when the moon is going to be, I think, in Virgo, because once it gets into Libra, it's going to be squaring the crap out of all of these cardinal points. So if you have anything 19 to 23 degrees of cardinal signs, wear a helmet this week. Life is going to get very loud. But remember that Capricorn is where we show up and we do our best work out in the world. And this is about kind of being a leader and having a long-term plan. As we get into January, late January going into February, we have eclipses. We've got planets that are coming into conjunction with Pluto and Aquarius. And it's a whole new ballgame. So let's talk a little bit about where this triple conjunction is going to be taking place this week for the 12 rising signs. As a reminder, guys, I'm a Western astrologer. That's the astrology that I like to practice. I'm going to be showing you guys this from the perspective of the whole sign system. Truth be told, I am a Placidus user in my private practice. And if you guys watch my videos on Friday, I like to use Placidus. I find it a little bit more accurate personally for timing. So if you are a Placidus user, listen to the rising sign that is going to show you where you have about 16 to 21 degrees of Capricorn in your chart. You may have to listen to a different rising sign to get the fuller picture. However, you can listen to the whole sign. I think it will resonate with a lot of people. And being that we're dealing with the sun, Leo risings and Capricorn risings are emphasized. Venus, this is going to be my Taurus and my Libra risings, and Mars, my Aries and my Scorpio risings. You guys are definitely feeling it this week. Now let's start first with my Aries and Aries risings. I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about just what exactly this means to see this triple conjunction in Capricorn, what's kind of coming about for you in the 10th house in your chart. Now, obviously, this is a big one for you guys because Mars is doing some stuff. It is conjunct Venus, it's conjunct the sun, it's in opposition to Jupiter. So what you're going to find for my Aries risings is that, the 10th house is all about your career, your reputation, your public life, your legacy. If you're unemployed, you're focusing on getting employed or launching businesses or doing business. If you are employed, there's a lot more being kind of visible out in the world, focusing on your goals, getting out there. And if you are, retiring, or if you're somebody who's not working, you just feel like there's a lot more responsibility on your plate. Maybe you're feeling like you want to kind of be a leader in some way or support your community, or this is about taking care of parents or being a parent. And I think that with this stellium kind of going through here, you know, this is about achievement. This is about authority. Obviously, the Mars Cazimi is pretty prominent for you guys, with Mars being your chart ruler. So when that happens at 19 degrees, you know, this is in your 10th house. I think like a once in a 32-year career birth period that you guys are having. It means that you're moving through your career more strategically. It means that you're really transforming the way that people see you out in the world and like your power and your authority. This is about expecting bold professional moves, and also this could manifest as promotions, job offers, launching businesses, getting some kind of public recognition that feels earned through your sense of discipline and commitment. Now that Venus Cazimi, on the other hand, it adds a lot of charisma. There's a lot of attractiveness to your leadership style. There's a lot of people who want to work with you. They appreciate you. They see you. If you're somebody who's old enough to remember some of these kind of conjunctions that took place in the early 90s, maybe a lot of Aries risings saw a major career restructuring, or, you know, maybe there was some change that was going on in your professional or your relationship status. So I really think about like the Sabian symbol of like the child carrying the bag, you know, taking on a lot of heavy responsibilities this week at work. And also building into some sense of long-term mastery when it comes to your professional life. Now it's all opposing Jupiter, your fourth. So you're going to see home and family demands, you know, are really clashing with your ambition. It's important that you set boundaries with Mars in your 10th house. And I would say, yeah, update your resume, put yourself out there, you know, go and be connecting with people in a professional sense. Launching businesses, starting new jobs, going on interviews, you know, pitching ideas, kind of like the 6th through the 9th is going to be very, very strong for you guys. So definitely let me know what happens. I'm excited to hear what manifests for you. All right, my Taurus and Taurus risings, this is a biggie for you as well, as Venus is involved in this triple conjunction between the Sun, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn in your 9th house. Now, Taurus, not only is it happening in you know, a sign that involves your chart ruler, but it's also happening in another earth element. So for my Taurus and Taurus risings, the Capricorn conjunctions are actually quite friendly for you, especially if you're anywhere between, I would say, 15 and like 20 degrees of Taurus Sun, Moon, or rising. It's going to be trining you, and I think you guys are going to like it. Now, being Venus ruled, it means that there is this deep personal activation that is taking place in your 9th house of beliefs, mentors, study, higher education, travel, publishing, you know, spirituality. So with Venus being involved in this, that reborn period that's taking place at 16 degrees is going to be obviously about bringing a sense of more mature, maybe dramatic kind of renewal to your worldview, to your beliefs, to your studies, maybe to your values or your beliefs when it comes to your home or your career and your long-term vision. Now, it's possible that you could see that there is an opportunity to travel for work. There is some international kind of travel that's coming up. Maybe you're enrolling in a serious study. Maybe there's some publishing opportunities coming up for you, or teaching opportunities, some spiritual commitments that feel very grounded, some legal matters that are potentially coming up. And I think relationships are really going to come up because you're going to see Venus in conjunction to Mars, your 7th house lord. It's also going to be in conjunction to the Sun, which is going to deal with your 4th house of home and family. So it's really bringing up relationships around culture, different people from different backgrounds. Maybe this is going to be somehow kind of connected to shedding old inhibitions that you have in regards to what you believe about love, what you believe about career, what you believe about success. And if I were you guys, number one, I'd be traveling. Like if you can be traveling, it's not a bad idea. Or if you're deciding that you want to start writing something, you want to start teaching, this can be really, really wonderful for a lot of you guys. But it's all playing off of Saturn. So remember, Saturn in your 11th, you know, kind of bringing together groups of people, really focusing on some of your long-term goals, where you see yourself going. And I think a lot of this is in preparation before planets move into your 10th house, where you're moving into a very pivotal turning point when it comes to your career. So maybe do a little bit of journaling or some soul searching about your core values. Maybe get some travel in if you can do it over the next week, or you can plan something in the future. And also anything that's kind of connected to education is very favored this week, especially with some of the oppositions to Jupiter. I do think that you're going to be kind of keeping an open mind when it comes to, you know, what you believe, especially about home and family. That was the tie to Jupiter And it's going to also help you kind of connect to other people who have different kind of perspectives. So good luck, Taurus. I hope it's a good one for you. For my Geminis and my Gemini risings, you guys are going to see a triple conjunction between the Sun, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn in your natal 8th house. Now, the 8th house obviously deals with things that can be a little shadowy. It can represent shared resources, intimacy, psychological shifts, transformation, debt, inheritances, research. And this is an area getting highlighted for you because Mercury, your chart ruler, is going through here. So it is picking up a lot of the same energies of what's kind of brewing in your 8th house. Personally, I think that it's very financial. I think that there is either some big financial changes happening or maybe some big shifts happening regarding intimacy, maybe your career as it's playing off of Saturn in your 10th house. But what is happening is that there is some deep psychological or financial rebirth. So with Venus and Mars kind of fusing here with the Sun, it's really intensifying your personal bonding experiences. So there could be a lot of sexual chemistry in the air. There could be power dynamics going on in close relationships. Dealing with debt, dealing with loans, dealing with money owed, or a partner kind of coming into some money can happen this week. And it's going to put the spotlight on your joint finances, maybe investments, or anything that is going to be about having some sense of restructuring that needs to kind of go on. And I think that this is about you having more authority over shared resources. Maybe you're being more disciplined in handling other people's money or other people's energy. And with some of the conjunctions happening around Scorpio degrees, I think that this is really adding more of like an investigative kind of like spin. So therapy, shadow work, research, interest in kind of like occult or metaphysical stuff can also be really beneficial for you guys. I would advise a lot of you to really focus on reviewing joint accounts, getting your taxes and stuff in order early, getting all of your receipts, getting all of your paperwork together. Because you're going to have the power and the energy to actually do that. Have honest talks about finances as well as intimacy this week, and keep an open mind for business changes or financial negotiations as it's playing off of Saturn in your 10th house. Good luck, Gemini. For my Cancers and Cancer risings, you guys are going to be experiencing a triple conjunction involving Venus, the Sun, and Mars in Capricorn in your 7th house, your opposite sign. My goodness, you guys, this is quite the week. To my single Cancer and Cancer risings, really pay attention because there's some stuff brewing that can be really good in the love department. Now, the 7th house we know is the house of partnerships. It's the house of marriage. It's about contracts. It's about bringing in clients. It can also be your marketplace, but it's also the house of open enemies, guys. So having so many planets there, especially Mars being a malefic, can definitely bring some intensity in existing bonds. Now, for you guys, relationships may reach some kind of career milestone. That's what I am predicting for those of you guys who are partnered. Obviously, the Venus Cazimi is bringing an emphasis on a renewal in relationships. So some of you guys might be renewing vows. Some of you guys might be recommitting to each other. Maybe you're making it through a difficult period and now you're stronger together. And I could see a lot of Cancer and Cancer risings talking about getting married, getting engaged, new business partnerships that are emerging that feel like they're built to last. And with Mars and Venus conjuncting, it adds more passion, but it also demands boundaries. So it might mean that there's some legally binding contracts or that there is some prenups. There's some, business negotiations that are potentially taking place, some legal things that are kind of coming up. And the opposition to Jupiter is very significant because it's all feeding off of you. So it might mean that a lot of other people are coming to you for your wisdom. They're coming to you for your insight. They're saying to you, hey, how do we bridge the gap in this long distance relationship? Or how do we see more of each other? How do we make time for each other? And it can feel like a lot for my Cancer and Cancer risings, especially if you guys have anything from about, I would say 16 to like 22 degrees. You're going to feel this push and pull that's going to be happening all week long. I do think that, this tug of war with either you versus others can create enough tension that it can really put you out there, like back into the dating world again. So if there's been some reluctance, you can find that there's this major power up period that's happening in relationships. If you're not looking for relationships, clients, new business partners, people who you could work with, people who you could work for, and that playing off of Saturn, it could mean a relationship with a guru, a teacher, a mentor. It could mean that you are working with a lawyer, you are working with somebody who is maybe at a distance. There could be some traveling or some long distance relationship stuff that could happen as well. When I think of the Sabian symbols for you guys, I really think that this is about learning how to share your burdens with other people. And so for committed partnerships, you might be feeling like you have to lean on your therapist more, or you're getting a reading, or maybe you're having to talk to your spouse a little bit more, needing some assistance. If you think back to the early 90s, if you're old enough, many Cancer risings formed long-lasting unions then. So some of you guys could be having major milestones in your relationships. Others can be having what feels like a second wind where, yeah, I had a really strong period and a run then, but now somebody's coming in that reminds you of that person or that period again in your life. I would be really focusing on clarifying your relationship goals, especially from like the 6th through the 11th. Signing contracts cautiously but confidently. I feel like with some of the conjunctions that are going to be happening here, it's beneficial. And I really feel like this is just about making sure that you can make the time for, taking on the relationship kind of responsibilities that may potentially be coming in for some of you. So keep your eyes out, Cancer. I hope it's a good one for you guys. For my Leo and Leo risings, what's going on, guys? You got a triple conjunction involving Venus, Mars, and the Sun in Capricorn in your natal 6th house. Now, biggie for you, you're ruled by the Sun, and obviously we've got this massive stellium of planets that are moving through your natal 6th house. Capricorn, a sign that in conjuncts or quincunxes you. You guys don't have a lot in common, but it is really being emphasized with your chart ruler going through the 6th house with 6th house themes. So your daily work, right? Your health, your office space, your routine, being of service to other people, dealing with employees, taking care of pets, focusing on, anything that deals with habits. So because your chart ruler is ruled by the Sun and you're seeing this conjunction of Venus and Mars, Venus is about communication and relationships, maybe travel. Mars is about home and family. It's also connected to your beliefs and some sense of kind of expanding out in the world. Putting it all together, I really feel like this is a time where you're getting a major glow up when it comes to discipline and when it comes to your well-being. Many of you guys are going to be finding that you're really on top of your health routine right now and you're really committed, and like regimens are going to stick. Whether it's your diet, if it's going to be your beauty routine with Venus there, if it's going to be committing to going to the gym or working with new healthcare practitioners, opening a new office, or just kind of sticking to a business plan or some kind of like professional routine. So work projects will gain momentum and structure. And if you're involved in the service world, this can be beneficial for you guys as well. Obviously, it's all playing off of Saturn in the 8th house. So there's like a lot of trying to get things in order when it comes to managing and dealing with finances, taxes, joint income. And it's all going to be opposing Jupiter in your 12th house of rest, reflection, what's kind of happening behind the scenes, and all of these things that are still kind of brewing that are going to be blossoming for you in the summer when Jupiter goes into your sign. So with Jupiter retrograde, I think a lot of you guys really need to keep an eye on your sleep. You might be also finding that there is a sense of reevaluating your goals and like needing to get structured and really practical and coming up with a routine to make them real. And I also think for a lot of you guys that, this is about confidence kind of returning through that mastery of your routine. So Leo degrees come up throughout this. You see also the Venus Cazimi, which is going to be critical when it comes to self-care and, doing things that feel rewarding. I also feel like that Sabian symbol about like the unseen choir is very much Jupiter in your 12th house. So it's like, having some kind of spiritual support that comes in and it helps sustain your efforts. If you think back to what has happened under previous cycles in Capricorn here, likely you change jobs, change offices, change schedules. Maybe you refine something about your work or your health in the past, especially when you think back to 2021 and 2022. So my advice for you guys is to really focus on, applying this Capricorn stellium, being committed, being consistent, being on time. Start your fitness or your productivity systems. Start doing it on the 6th. Remember, it takes 21 days to make or break a habit, but if you can stay with it through the end of the month, I think they're going to stick. Good luck, Leo. For my Virgos and Virgo risings, what's up, guys? You're going to see a triple conjunction involving the Sun, Venus, and Mars in Capricorn, fellow sister Earth sign in your 5th house. Oh, Virgo, this is good for you guys. I love this. I think that this is just, what a place to see a conjunction, especially having your chart ruler Mercury going through the same house. Quite beautiful. A house of romance, a house of creativity. This is also about children, pleasure, maybe self-expression, hobbies, side hustles. And romance and creativity get serious this week. There's a lot of ambition. So whether it's taking care of kids, getting back into the dating world, getting passionate about a hobby, trying to launch your own business. I love all of this. You know, some of you guys will find that there is a possible opportunity for some pretty significant love affairs that could be more than just something casual. Now, it can be something long lasting. You will see that kind of building into the next couple of months. And creative projects really needed to be treated like your professional goals, okay? You have to take romance and having fun seriously. You have to kind of bake that into your schedule. So with Venus's connection to your 9th and also to your 2nd, if you have publishing goals, travel goals, teaching goals, maybe you want to launch an art business or you want to do something that's more kind of independent, now is the time to get serious about what the heart wants. Now, if you have children, children-related matters can definitely come up. So things going on with your kids, focus on your children, their kind of goals, their playtime. But it can also be about education in relation to children. It can be also a very fertile time, so there can be opportunities for conception if you guys are trying. And all of this becomes very structured, and it's playing off of Saturn. So it's about the support that's coming from partnerships to make these things possible. Now, I think about the Sabian symbol of like the girl bathing, and it talks about like that authentic joy without feeling like you have to do it in a more personal way, like you're not like performing. And the Scorpio degrees, which add intensity. So it's a very deeply transformative transit for you guys. It's all about self-expression, especially with the Sun and Mercury going through this house. I would be dating with intention. I would be creating, you know, and really trying to do that with other people. If you're somebody who's creating and providing services, you're gonna have people who are interested. If you're feeling that you're kind of burnt out in the love department, it's time to get back out there. I also feel like this is a time for existing relationships to really get serious about creating some fun and kind of crafty date nights together. So date with intention, channel this creativity into something tangible, really focus on kind of getting in touch with the inner child or the inner artist, because I think this is going to be a beautiful time for you guys. The oppositions to Jupiter are basically just saying that it's also going to be about what you create and how you share that with other people. So groups, friends, maybe online, things of that nature, and finding ways to be able to kind of bring in, you know, more joy. Good luck, Virgo. For my Libras and Libra risings, what's going on, guys? This is important for you as Venus rules your chart, and Venus is going to be a part of this triple conjunction in Capricorn in your 4th house. So if you happen to be Libra 16 to 22, 23 degrees, this is going to be the most intense for Libra risings, because you guys are the one missing piece of the puzzle, where you've got action in all of the other cardinal houses where life gets very loud. So especially pay attention to what's happening or has happened with this recent kind of full moon in Cancer that was highlighting where you're going to get pulled in all different angles this month. And then as the moon goes through Libra, it's going to show you a lot of the same thing, where you're going to have to take some action when it comes to things on the home front. Now, the good news is your chart ruler's already been moving through this house, so you already know the name of the game. The 4th house is obviously really this profound activation when it comes to your family, your roots, the base of your life, your private life, your inner security, but it also deals with real estate, property, things kind of connected to the future of what's kind of building when it comes to your home and your family life. So with the conjunction that's taking place with the Sun, which rules your goals, Mars, which rules relationships, and also money, it's obvious that there is something new that's coming into full bloom when it comes to your private life. So I think that it's about maybe emotional foundational renewal. I think a lot of Libras and Libra risings have a lot of things going on behind the scenes, but they're kind of quiet about it, and they're trying to kind of balance what's going on both with career, with the oppositions to Jupiter, but also relationships with some of the squares that you're seeing to Chiron. Now, this means that some of you guys are really focused on finding a home purchases, selling homes, spending time with family, maybe thinking about a renovation, or maybe family commitments are really starting to solidify. This is wonderful for healing ancestral patterns. This is good for emotional security starting to emerge. And many of you guys who have natal Venus in Capricorn are going to feel this very personally. I think about that Sabian symbol that's kind of connected to liberation, and I think it's very much about the home life and maybe shedding old family conditionings around home and family, anything involving worth or love. And that Jupiter opposition to your 10th house is, yeah, you feel like your career is very much kind of a significant part of being able to help expand and kind of grow when it comes to your home and your family life. But balance is really kind of critical right now. If you're somebody who remembers back to 1989 and 1994, those Libra risings had a totally dramatic change and transformation when it comes to their home life and their living situation. So you can see similar things. as a Libra rising, just kind of reflecting on that, I certainly had that. And I also, talked a little bit about what happened with the Venus retrograde 4 years ago. And that was a time where I had just moved. I had just gotten married. I was in a new state. My grandmother passed and I was just like completely beside myself. And so it's really weird now, like 4 years later, to see it kind of come full circle. And now it's like, oh, I'm moving again. We're getting a little bit more settled. Now we're talking about, starting more of a focus and an emphasis on like our lives and our family. And so it's a really cool dynamic that's kind of happening. Overwhelming with the Jupiter oppositions for sure, but nevertheless, I think it's good. So to my Libra risings, I would say, get your home in order, organize it, clean it up, communicate well with family. Feng shuiing your home may not be a bad idea because Saturn is in your 6th house and it's playing off of Saturn. Organize your home office or your home office space. Have those serious family conversations from the 6th through the 9th. I think they're going to be very productive for you guys. Good luck. Scorpio and Scorpio rising. What's up, guys? We've got a Mars, Sun, Venus conjunction taking place in Capricorn in your natal 3rd house. And this is very important for you, Scorpio, because Mars is your traditional ruler. So you're seeing your ruler, which is you, moving through the 3rd house. And it'll Cazimi with the Sun this week. So it's about a big professional announcement or some kind of big announcement like websites or a community project or some kind of local business or, podcasting, blogging, some kind of communication theme. And Venus will also Cazimi with the Sun. So it's also about some big announcements that you're making about relationships or partnerships maybe that are emerging or some big goals that you're setting for relationships or working with clients. And then Mars and Venus are going to conjunct, which is really merging you and another person. So short distance travels, discussions about moving, discussions also about relationships you have with family, changes with vehicles, all that stuff. So there's a lot of things going on, and it all opposes Jupiter in Cancer in your 9th house. Feeding off of Saturn in your 5th. So conversations about love, romance, dating, creative projects, hobbies, taking chances. Man, Scorpio, there's a lot going on for you. So just know that, the 3rd house topics of siblings, short trips, your mindset learning is all getting enhanced. That Mars Cazimi is huge. I think that it's really about a mindset upgrade. I think that you're going to be feeling just mentally like sharp as a tack. Very powerful, very strategic when it comes to your communication. So whether you're writing, speaking, teaching, or focusing on contracts, you're going to gain some kind of influence. Now, siblings or neighbors, can play a role here. There can be important conversations with them. They can be very positive and about, like maturity and like you kind of taking the lead and telling people what you're going to do or what your initiative is. So words have quite the weight to them this week. And I think that, some of you guys might be either traveling with a partner or planning a short distance trip. It's also possible you could meet somebody online or you meet somebody through some kind of creative hobby. And I think with the 3rd house getting activated, some of you guys are seeing a lot of emphasis on your cars and your vehicles. So you're beautifying your vehicles, you're getting them, kind of cleaned up, maybe you're getting them detailed. Some of you guys are going to be buying or selling vehicles this week. And I think with Venus kind of moving through there, it adds a lot more charm to your words. Now, when I'm thinking about the Sabian symbol, the Union Jack flag, I think about how you have much more of like an authority to your voice this week. And so there is like more confidence when it comes to talking about what you love, what you value, maybe what you are wanting to focus on in creative projects, talking about children, serious, kind of commitments in relationships. And I also feel like, yes, there's going to be a bit of heavy mental responsibilities this week, but show up, be brave, be mature about it. And I think that I would really be using my voice. So if you're wanting to launch a podcast, if you're wanting to start writing something, if you want to start blogging, if you want to take a course, if you want to learn a language, show up, communicate, and show other people that, you've got the wits about you to kind of get this stuff done. I think it's going to be great. And the opposition to Jupiter is also a lot of learning about money and resources. It can also be that some of you guys are considering traveling to other areas to kind of suss other areas out before you're deciding that you're going to potentially move somewhere. You're kind of weighing the odds of like what's going to cost more, or maybe you're doing a lot of education about investment or about kind of trading or kind of speculative investments. So that can be really beneficial for you guys as well. Good luck, Scorpio. I hope it's a good one for you. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, you guys are going to see a Sun, Mars, Venus conjunction in Capricorn taking place in your natal second house. For you guys, this is not as personal, but it is still powerful. And I would say with some of the oppositions to Jupiter, it's definitely going to be felt. So the second house obviously is the house of money, right? Resources, what you collect, what cash you have, your personal values. It's also about what's in the bank. And your income. So there is a huge power up period coming for Sagittarius and Sagittarius risings. I see this as a financial rebirth period, and it's about doing it with discipline because Capricorn's known for that. And it sextiles Saturn, and Saturn is the dispositor. So it's really about what you're investing into for some of your long-term home and family plans. Now, I'm predicting for Sag and Sag risings that if you haven't seen a lot of money coming in, or if you haven't seen a lot of stability in your income, that's about to change. And that's because the second house is going to be dealing with money that's coming in. And it's also in opposition to Jupiter, which means maybe you have made some brilliant investments over the last couple of years. If you have invested wisely, you'll probably see some kind of positive abundance coming your way. But it's also connected to self-worth, and that self-worth is really kind of rooted in tangible achievement, right? Capricorn is kind of work. You're having to work for the money, rather than, just optimism alone. So it's not like it's going to be fine, put it on the credit card. It's like, no, we're working hard to be able to achieve our dreams. We can spend money while we're saving money. And I think that you're really focusing on working hard to invest in building a home life of your dreams and kind of getting that all situated. Now, the Venus Cazimi brings, I think, a lot of attractive earning opportunities for you guys. Obviously, Venus is kind of connected to the income that comes from your job. It's also connected to your health and your habits. So some of you guys might be spending money on socializing, friends, parties, entertainment. It can also be connected to health, pets, or physical fitness. And you're going to see with Mars kind of moving through there, some of the money is going to burn a hole in your pocket. Like some of you guys are going to have some impulse buys. But I also feel like this is about you really being more assertive when it comes to making money and like your resources. So I think like the Sabian symbol, where it's like the kid carrying the bag of groceries, directly kind of mirrors building your financial capacity, and you're doing it through effort. So you're really determined, you're really committed to make more. Maybe you want to pay off debt, maybe you want to save money, maybe you want to buy a house. And if you think back to what happened, if you're old enough, to what happened in the early 90s, many Sag risings saw a major shift in their income or their first real job, or they started realizing the value of money and like what they needed in order to kind of be secure. So my advice is that this is a time to really focus on budgeting review. This is a time maybe to negotiate a raise or start raising your rates or knowing your worth at the beginning of January, like the 6th through the 11th. Mind your spending habits, but also, if there is something that is worthwhile, long lasting that you can invest in, please do so. And I also think the oppositions to Jupiter is a lot of what you're bringing in because of what's coming from other people. So you might be getting paid back for something, you might be getting reimbursed for something, you can be getting a lot more tips. And maybe you're just also realizing that, hey, cost of living is going up. I need to be changing my rates, or I need to be asking for more money. And I think it can be really wonderful because all of this is helping you feel not just more financially secure, but more emotionally secure in the process. So you guys will have to let me know what happens. I think this is going to be quite a beneficial thing. Some of you guys will be getting money from family. There'll be inheritances, or there'll be bonuses, or there'll be money that's coming through partners or spouses that's also going to potentially impact your financial situation in a positive way. All right, we've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You guys are the stars of the show. I've got a couple Capricorn rising friends in my life. It's very interesting to watch what's kind of going on with you guys. All of you guys look great. You're doing great. You're finally coming out of what has probably felt like a hellish last couple of years. Seeing a lot of relationship changes for you guys and things like that too. Even if you're not looking for it, that's really the Jupiter opposition in your 7th. But obviously the Sun, Mars, and Venus meet in your 1st house. So if there's one takeaway from this, is Capricorn rising, you are the most directly impacted. Especially if you have anything 15 to 20, 21 degrees in Capricorn, you're going to be feeling this the most. Your 1st house is your appearance, yourself, your identity, your body. It's also about personal initiative and your appearance. Get up, have a morning routine the next couple weeks. That's my advice. This entire stellium moving through your 1st house and the double Cazimi is really significant. I think it's going to bring life-changing, personal reinvention. This is about really, projecting more mature authority, more ambition, more attractiveness. It's also about a physical glow up. So a lot of you guys can have a change in your physical appearance, your style, your fitness, new haircut. You have whatever it is that you want to do. The sun's about transformation. Venus is about romance and love. It's also connecting to your status and your career. Mars is connecting to your home. And many Capricorn and Capricorn risings are going to have the most power the next 2 weeks to really get something done, whether it's traveling, changing your appearance, your body, your health, moving, whatever. Like, you've got a lot of energy and momentum, so really use it. Now, I think that the identity shifts are going more in the direction of people seeing you as somebody who's more disciplined, much more of a leader. And it's all playing off of Saturn, which is your chart ruler in the third. So maybe you're doing this through communication, through learning, through teaching, through traveling. Maybe there's a lot more momentum to focus on communication, siblings, anything connecting with documents, or potentially even moving. Certainly Saturn and Neptune pretty soon going into your fourth means a lot of you guys are going to be moving house in some capacity and making a huge change where you're getting rerouted in a new place. If we think about the Sabian symbol and how it kind of plays out for you personally, first you're shedding something, then you're reclaiming your power, then you're bearing some kind of responsibility, and then you find the inner harmony. You guys are the goats, right? You guys are kind of made for this. And having Mars exalted in your sign in the middle of your, your season, the gods have blessed you guys this year. It's obvious that it's giving you a great deal of power and momentum as you're kind of heading into the Saturn-Neptune conjunction next month. I want you guys to think back about what was happening in 2021 and 2022, right at the end of 2021 when that Venus retrograde happened. Your status changed, your career changed, maybe some health changes, right? Something happened. And so there's been this restructuring that's kind of happened since then. Now you're a completely different person. So I think that many of you guys are going to find that you're really rising to some kind of prominence, or you're refining who you are out in the world. Maybe update your wardrobe, change your user photos, maybe set some new goals for 2026 for a new personal mission, especially around January the 6th. I don't care what my Capricorn risings say, it opposes Jupiter. So this means that you are either working with a business partner, bringing in a new partner, working more closely with a spouse. Maybe you're going to be meeting a foreigner. Maybe it means that a therapist is helping you have a breakthrough. Maybe you're going to find somebody who can kind of guide you in some way. Even Jupiter is still in a trine with Saturn. So there's really good relationship karma here for a lot of you guys. But if it's not romantic, it could be clients. It could be people who are interested in what you have. It could also mean your relationship with family is potentially improving in the process. But get serious about your goals. Take those photos. I'd love to see how, maybe take a photo from like 2021 and then take a photo now. Compare the two pictures. See what's changed, right? And also give yourself a big pat on the back for this kind of major rebirth period that you've gone through. So I think you guys are going to be feeling a lot stronger and a lot more capable to kind of take on some of the energies that are coming up next month. Good luck. Would love to hear from you guys. Let me know what's changed since then. For my Aquarius and Aquarius risings, you guys are going to have the triple conjunction of the Sun, Mars, and Venus taking place in Capricorn in your natal 12th house. This one could be interesting because the 12th house can go one of two ways. Maybe it's your bedroom, maybe it's your subconscious, maybe it's things that's hidden, and kind of blind spots. Maybe it's about healing, spirituality, but it can also mean unseen enemies, things coming to a conclusion, things kind of wrapping up and, changing behind the scenes. So it's going to be a little bit more subtle. All this is playing off of Saturn, which is your traditional ruler, which is in Pisces in your second. So lots of changes with your career, your beliefs about money, your beliefs about yourself, some shifts that are kind of happening spiritually or subconsciously that's helping you restructure something about your value system and your security. I think that's really what this is. Think of this as behind the scenes renewal. Mars deals with your career. It also has a connection to your mind, while Venus is connected to your home, and it's also connected to your beliefs. So the 12th house is really where we need some rest and recuperation, and planets going through the 12th house right before Aquarius season means that we're kind of, reassessing what's happened this whole last year, what we're taking with us moving forward, what we're leaving behind. So for you guys, there is this need for, I think, working through hidden desires around love, maybe your career, maybe you need to integrate some of these blind spots that you haven't been aware of. There's much more of a focus on spiritual or like therapeutic breakthroughs, and you need to retreat in some way. You need to rest. So sleeping, going to a spa, taking a breakaway, being in nature. Maybe for some of you guys, secret projects or just kind of relaxing and focusing on spiritual practices. Venus and Mars in the 12th house can be some very sexy, passionate connections behind closed doors. And it can also mean that it could be some like work connections. Also, I think that this is about healing subconscious worth issues. And when I think of the hidden choir Sabian symbol that came up this week, perfectly placed with the 12th house, it's about this unseen spiritual support that's coming in to help you. Your ancestors are the 12th house. So maybe meditating with an ancestral altar, putting a picture out of somebody, who's guiding you, maybe, giving an offering to your ancestors and being like, help me find my strength, help me through, this physical or emotional or financial kind of block. Like, how do I find my strength? I think they'll show up for you. It's just about really working with things that seem kind of like etheric and, kind of behind the scenes. Also, you have a tendency to work too much, right? With Capricorn in the 12th, and this is all opposing Jupiter in Cancer, and Jupiter represents money. So a lot of you guys may have some concerns about, well, if I'm making these changes at work, how's it going to impact me financially? Or these things are kind of coming to a close. Is it going to be okay? And I would be really just resting and paying attention to your health, because the oppositions are going to show you, yeah, you can eat all the things and do all the right things and, like go through your daily routine. But if you're not actually taking time to integrate more of the spiritual kind of cleanliness and practices, you're going to be feeling kind of exhausted. And obviously, I don't want you guys burning the candle at both ends. I think that's quite important for you. With Saturn being the ruler of your 12th house and it's your traditional ruler, you could be your own worst enemy. So there's also this sense of really needing to be like, there are some things that I have dealt with for a long time. It could be shame, it could be guilt, Saturn things, feeling bad or having like lack mindset that really just needs to go. So I think for a lot of you guys, it's a good time to rest, do some meditation, do some journaling. If you need to work with a therapist or a hypnotherapist, or if you're needing to maybe do a staycation and do a day or two in a hotel, or being in a spa, that can be really helpful for you as well. Capricorn's also an earth element, so wearing your crystals, being in nature, those things can really kind of help you balance out some of these heavier energies. The end of this month, we're going to see these planets come into conjunction with Pluto, and you're going to get that hard reset. So I think a lot of these changes with your career is potentially coming, or a lot of these changes that are going to be happening. And it feels like it's an identity shift, and you have to kind of let go what you have been doing or what your purpose has been as you embrace this new beginning as we head into 2026. And set those intentions around the 6th through the 9th, guys. Good luck. Pisces and Pisces rising. You guys see a triple conjunction between the Sun, Mars, and Venus in Capricorn in your natal 11th house of friends, groups, networks, long-term goals, and community. I like this for you guys. Capricorn's friendly. It sextiles you. It's also deeply connected to Saturn, which is in your sign. So it is basically saying it's about the action that you are actually taking when it comes to going after your long-term career and social goals. I think for many of you guys, this is about expanding your social circles. This is about really certain professional friendships, group kind of collaborations, networking opportunities really starting to mature. And alliances can kind of start to come in that can really help you build when it comes to your visibility in your career. Now, this is also about feeling more ambitious with your shared values. Community roles or group projects can really gain momentum here. You might be leading a group, working with a group, training a group in some way. And the Venus Cazimi is going to be attracting beneficial connections. So professional kind of networking events, being kind of active with what's going on with like professional connections online, or updating resumes, or LinkedIn's is important. I also think that the Mars Cazimi is really this drive to manifest dreams through these connections and these networks. So you want people around you who are successful. The Sabian symbol that deals with authority is about leadership within groups, how you can lead other people, or how you can be so steadfast and committed to your goals that you're only wanting to surround yourself with people who are on the same wavelength. So what you're going to find is with the Sun's connection, it's going to be about work relationships. With Mars connection, it's going to be about traveling or education, as well as making more money. And with Venus's connection, it's going to be really highlighting communication as well as joint resources. So there could be a lot of pooling of energy, resources, connections, referrals through some kind of professional network. I really think if I was a Pisces rising, I would be focusing on going and joining professional groups, maybe joining mastermind groups. Maybe this is going to be starting a group, or this is going to be about giving presentations and connecting with other people who are kind of like-minded, because that's where you're really going to see everything go for full circle. Obviously, it's opposing Jupiter, your traditional ruler in the 5th house. So you're really able to kind of highlight your natural talents, what you can do, how you can share, how you can create, how you can be in the spotlight, or maybe even teach. And you can share that with a group of individuals. So you might be able to collaborate with other professionals and, you know, kind of give speeches, or you can give proposals, or you can be leading teams. And it's going to really help you shine. And I think it's going to bring you guys a lot of joy. You can have some socializing and some romantic opportunities that can kind of happen through this as well. Somebody might see you and there could be some interest there. Certainly Mercury moving through this house is also kind of indicating that it's not all work. Some of it could be play. So I hope it's a great transit for you guys. Be really committed to some of your goals, because I think that this is the time where people are really going to start to see you shine. All right, guys. Well, obviously, this rare triple threat in Capricorn is not quite the threat at all. I think it being ruled by Saturn does echo some of the kind of historic, restructuring that needs to happen, but it's really calling all of us to really mature and rebirth when it comes to love, drive, and our personal ambitions. So use January 6th through the 9th for this power up period. Set realistic intentions. Get serious about where you see yourselves going. Be the goat, kind of climbing the mountain. I'd love to hear your guys' feedback. Drop your rising sign below and let me know. How are you feeling? What happens for you this week? How are you kind of combating those Jupiter oppositions? And definitely leave me your feedback. Your comments, your likes, and your subscriptions definitely help the channel grow. So I thank you for that. And I will be putting out more videos soon. So you guys will catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. Don't forget Friday's lives. And if you guys are interested in learning astrology, I am back after 2 years. I'm going to be teaching my Astro 301. I've got a few spots left for my Advanced Techniques course that will be taking place over about 8 weeks live on Zoom in a digital classroom. Click the links below if you want to check out my course. It's the Astro 301. And you guys can also check out my other courses. I've got tarot and beginner's astrology courses there as well. But like I said, we have a few spots left. So if you guys want to join and learn some of the advanced techniques with me, I'd love to be your teacher. Check out my calendars and also my sessions if you guys want to book at beyondtheveiltarot.com. All right, guys, beautiful, powerful week. I can't wait to see what transforms and how we show up. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I'll see you guys here very soon. Take care.